So let's play reporter a little bit with the dash cam. I'm coming around the back road, and I've been seeing a lot more traffic than usual on this road, so that tells me, and I can see it now, the state highway up here is flooded out to the point of being impassable. We're going to drive down here and look at it. I'm not surprised. I figured it would be. I never looked at it yesterday when I was out driving around. I never came down this way. But this area, when we get really bad floods, it always floods out this little area. So we're just gonna take a drive down here. I see the DOT there. And again, this is the state highway. You know, usually, from what I remember in the past when they did this, the DOT didn't bother to come out and block it. Because, I mean, it's obvious that you can't get through here. You know. Looks like there's a car. One or more cars that are completely flooded out. Floating even, maybe. Wow. Yeah, I've never seen these guys bother to come out here before, but I don't know. I guess they didn't have anything else to do. But there's definitely one or more cars floating out there, or partially floating, partially submerged. So it looks like somebody tried to cross and shouldn't have. I guess that's why they've got the trucks out here, because somebody already did what they shouldn't have. It'll be flooded out further down this way too. I've actually driven through part of it in a Mercedes diesel I used to have, 1973 220 diesel, and I drove it through water halfway up the headlights, logs floating along and bumping into my grill and stuff like that. But at the time I lived on the other side of the flooding, so I was just trying to get home. This happens every few years, so if you live out here, you know, it is uncommon, but it's not unheard of by any means. It is uncommon for this time of year though, because, you know, this is the day after Christmas. But it's not global warming, because I remember it being, it was mid-70s yesterday on Christmas Day, and that is very unusual. Usually it's well below freezing on Christmas, but I remember one time in the late 70s that it was 80 degrees on Christmas Day. So that's not unheard of either. But it is uncommon and noteworthy. Worth driving around out here and looking at it anyway. See the flooding off to the sides over there on the river plain, but we're going to come across some flooding here in just a little bit. I remember driving through here before when it was flooded through some of these areas, and you know, just I mean, in that Mercedes, which, you know, a diesel doesn't have, especially an old school diesel like that one, doesn't need electricity to run. And so driving through the water doesn't, as long as you don't get water in the air intake, it doesn't cause a problem for it. Although it might zap your alternator. But I would just, this thing had a manual 4-speed in it, and first gear was pretty low. So when it came to the water, I would just put it in the center of the road and first gear and idle along, and just hold it in the center and look, watch the center line. And as long as I could see the center line through the water, I figured I was okay. And so that's the way I did it. It kept away from the edges of the road, because there's some pretty good drop-offs in some locations around here. But I remember at one point putting along in first gear at idle and seeing fish swim across the road ahead of me. Okay, we are definitely going to come up on some flooding here in just a couple minutes, because there's a place where the river gets very close to the road, and it's going around the edge of a mountain, kind of. And so there's a small bluff on the left side of the road, and a drop off to the river on the right side. And then there's a curve, and where the curve is floods. I saw some people walking back there in some flooding. I'll check it out when I go back. But anyway, on the curve, you can kind of tell if it's going to be passable or not farther on by how far the water goes across the curve. If it goes completely across the road, you might be able to get through there, but you won't be able to get through further on. But if it doesn't go completely across the road, yeah, you'll have to ford through some water that might be, you know, a foot or so deep, or maybe a little deeper, maybe 18 inches. But if you're in a high clearance vehicle, especially one with 4-wheel drive, you won't have too much difficulty getting across. Okay, you can see the water here now. Approaching that curve I was telling you about. We're not there yet, because we go up a little higher here and then go down to almost river level, and that's where it's going to be flooded. This section right here never floods. it doesn't get this high. This is about maybe 30 or 40 feet above river level right now. More than that most of the time. But now we're approaching the curve that's going to be flooded, so we'll be able to see how high the water is. Yeah, it's going to be impossible further on, impassable, I mean. See, there's a river access point right up here, but it's not completely across the road, but it's probably still going to be impassable just ahead. Or if not, probably not just ahead, not at the first completely flooded out part we come to. It'll probably be passable, but the next little cutout like this is a lot lower, so it will probably be impassable. Just going to check it out and see. Okay, now we're coming up on some real water. It's not impassable because up to just ahead anyway, because there went a little car. They came through it. But beyond this next little village, that car probably didn't come through because it's going to be a lot deeper. See, there's some driftwood. See, there's a very good possibility of seeing fish swim across the water when it's like this, because the water is shallow enough to be able to see them, but deep enough to give them access. Got a pretty good wake coming up. We'll go for Granny Low because it's getting a little bit deep. Man, I tell you what, it's amazing that that little car came through this. Actually, they probably didn't. No. That little white Chevy, it didn't come through here. They probably drove down to here and turned around. Because this is definitely too deep for that car. That Chevy pickup ahead of me is a two-wheel drive though, so I knew that if he made it, I could make it. Zoom in so you can see him crossing. Tell you what, that's probably enough. I'm going to turn around right here because I mean, you know, he made it through there so I could make it through there. But there's no point in it. I just came down here to look at the water, and I don't have anywhere to go back in there or anything today, so I am going to watch this Toyota though, see if he comes through. Tell you one thing about Toyota pickups, they've got, at least the ones I've had a low mounted alternator, so there's a very good chance of ruining your alternator. Of course, it's probably not deep enough to get into to submerge the alternator anyway, so yeah, he's not having any problem. Alright, let's stop it here.